Now, while communication is intrinsic to all organizations to further their mission and meet their goals, when approached strategically, it guides them to deliver the right message to the right target group in the most effective manner. Needless to say, this session is tailored for CSR teams to lay emphasis on understanding the effective communication skills in the social development context to amplify impact and improve chances of collaboration. I would like to invite the facilitators for the session, Professor Ruchi Tewari and Ms. Sushama Oza. Professor Ruchi Tewari has over 20 years of teaching experience, and her professional focus is in the applied areas of communication, where she specializes in strategic CSR, its design, implementation, and reporting. She has been invited as a speaker, moderator, and chair for sessions on CSR as a tool for development and social well-being by organizations like Telecom Authority of India, Lodha Developers, Society of Business Ethics, etc. Apart from her involvement in academics, she has been engaged as a consultant and trainer with companies like Navneet Publishers, Staffing and Elitecore Technologies. Her research, training, and consulting areas deal with CSR and communications. We also have with us Ms. Sushama Oza, who just retired on December 31st, 2019, as a Director of Strategy and Sustainability at Adani Foundation, Ahmedabad. She was also the CEO of Adani Foundation from May 2007 to October 2014, and has been playing a pivotal role in shaping the CSR for Adani conglomerate for more than 13 years. She has over 37 years of experience in the development field, out of which 21 years have been as head of the organization in India and the USA. She has led several capacity building programs all over India in the field of CSR. And before retirement, she was spearheading two Center of Excellence projects, Swachhagraha and SuPoshan, which were being implemented nationwide. She continues to support sustainability efforts and reporting as a part of sustainability leadership committees and as an advisor for Adani Group of companies. It is an honor to have both of you here with us today. Over to you, ma'am.
So being the younger one between Sushma and me, let me take the privilege to hold the mic to myself. And on behalf of MICA, I would first like to extend Sushma's introduction and help you know that Sushma is also a part of MICA. She's a consultant and an advisor with the Center for Development and Management Communication, which we host at MICA. And it's completely a privilege to be working along with her. And with her, we've been doing a lot of programs. And in that light, I can also take the privilege and extend to say that Sushma and I are also dear friends. Sushma, if you'd like to add something, please feel free.
No, it's a pleasure, and we hope that we will take you through this journey of Masterclass, where you will also get some insights. And without taking much time, back to you, Ruchi.
Okay, right. So we directly jump into it. Some of the names that I saw are familiar names whom we've also been interacting with as a part of the series of masterclasses that we have been conducting with CSR Box. And there's also an online program, a 6-month online certification program that we're running along. So for all those of you who are repeat names and we are familiar faces with you, I welcome you again. For all others, I hope you are safe and doing well. Let me also introduce you all to Shrishti Govilkar, who is helping anchor this program. And Shrishti will be hosting and handling the slides. And as they roll, she's the one who's going to be there. So thank you, Shrishti, for being here. And let's jump directly into the session. While Shrishti rolls up the PPT, let me explain to you the format that we have for all of you. We have these 3 key couple of words that we've picked up. From that, I shall be talking a little to open the platform and build a base which is more theoretical for all of you, explaining a few elements about communication, pulling it up to partnership, and then we will try and understand through a case that Sushma talks very passionately about to see how we see all of these elements of communication and partnership coming together. What is our purpose? Distinctly and needless to say, is sorting doubts and questions that you have, and you are the center. So please feel free to punch in your questions in the chat function right here. Apart from that, if in the middle of somewhere that we are talking, we will also be happy to respond to questions in the chat. Towards the end of the session, the time is all yours and we will give it all out to you. At this moment, let's quickly jump into it and let me talk to you about the title. Shushti, if we could go back, child. Yeah. So here we will be focusing upon effective communication and how effective communication can be used as a strategy to meet these two ends. One, to develop partnership, and the second is to amplify impact. Understand this. Amplifying impact is nothing else but a result of closely, truly held partnerships. So if I explain the title to you, we fix the title such that communication is a strategy which, if used effectively, will lead to great partnerships. And once you have great partnership and you are leveraging this tool of communication well, amplifying your impact is a natural byproduct. And we are talking out of experience as well. So a quick short video for all of us to understand what is communication. So I'm trying to run this video to sensitize you to figure out how deep can communication play and how much is it beyond just the niceties of how are you and how are you not. It's much more than that. And that's what this video depicts, the video for you.
What did you do to my sign?
I wrote the same, but in different words.
Thanks, love.
So yes, absolutely what we want to kind of get started with. And that's what my next slide does. I lay out the communication landscape for all of you. And as I lay this out, I'm very, very clear with the conviction that each participant here is doing fantastically great work on the field out there. We are interacting extremely closely with our community groups, with our beneficiaries, with the members with whom we form this little NGO of ours, and we work with the community. But the kind of communication that you need there is extremely different from the kind of communication that you need when you interact with your donor partner or your prospective donor or your corporate group, and worse still, maybe the government authorities to whom we report. And so this next visual that I have for you, and I will also take it back, Shushti, if you could go back. The first visual that I have for you brings out the communication landscape and understand this clearly, that we are living in a times where communication is extremely shareable. So any of us who believe that we can live in our little opaque world where we will decide what we say, those days are gone. The current times are times of open communication. And that's what my next visual was, which is what I wanted to depict to you. And Shrishti, if you'd enter chat. The next visual tells you that we are at a crossroad in communication. The traditional mediums of communication stay. There are still some of us who are working, taking printouts of emails. There are still some of us who struggle to write a good email, and we have a volunteer group who only understands Instagram pictures. We've got to navigate and maneuver ourselves through this landscape of communication, because when we are building partnership, this volunteer of mine is as important as that senior member in a corporate group who still needs a printout of the email. That's the crossroad which I want to depict. And the only open line there is an open-minded approach to communication. I will pull in from what Mr. Pratap was saying in the previous session while he was talking about trust, and take the liberty to tell you that your trust is a part of your value structure, depicted through open, and second, validated with examples. There is absolutely little reason why you will not come out effective. Very little reason. And that is what is an open-minded line that you pull into this world on the communication road. We move on. And so who is communicating? Here are your players. It's you and the other. And through this game of communication that you're playing, it's virtually like a game of chess. You've got to be smart to predict the move of the other player. You have to read the mind of the other player to say that, I think this is what they are thinking. So do you understand how complex this thinking is? And communication draws from the domain of psychology. If you're a good reader of human mind, you are a good communicator. You have to read the gaps, the silences, the speeches, the request for repetitions, all of these happening in a multiplied environment. Something being said in newspaper, newsletter, annual report, sustainability report, website, Twitter, Insta, Facebook. We are no more living in the times of India. Those times are gone. Now we have actually times being depicted to us through multiple mediums. So how well as an NGO, which is you, can understand the other, and this other is the person with whom you want to foster a partnership and create an impact. Between the two, you have to choose who makes the first move, who gets the queen of the other, and how does your knight move. Those moves, and this is one of my favorite visuals when I talk about communication, because communication is like chess. Some move straight, some only move diagonal, some only move 2.5, and some have the liberty to move everywhere. It's just that. So keep that analogy in mind. I can talk endlessly on that slide, but I will move on for the privilege of time and say this, that in this game of chess of communication, there are two outputs you're looking for. You're looking at casting an influence, and this is what the term influence means. I'm not dealing with it, but to have the other person under your sway. The other person should be under your sway, and he or she will be under your control and impact only when, and we move on. Next one, Shrishti. These are all multiple words of the word influence, but this influence and this conviction, this alignment, this effect, this control only happens when there is credibility. And credibility are the following terms. So in a quick capsule, I am telling you, your communication mediums are so many. Your communication partner is the other guy with whom you want to establish a partnership. Your communication output, how do you amplify impact? You amplify impact by establishing credibility. Influence is a byproduct. And your credibility is nothing else. And I will repeat, notice your integrity and your trust, how reliable and authentic you are in the work that you're doing. Your commitment, regard, and reputation, all put together, bring out your credibility quotient. So I can take the freedom to say that each one of you can calculate your credibility quotient. Go out and take a quick survey against this. You will know how credible you are internally. And this is definitely going to be diffused when it goes out to the other. So we move on, Shrishti. Pulling together is what I have put for you. I'm saying, what do you think of communication? It is this. Unless you don't communicate, there are going to be assumptions, and you're leaving it for the other person to conclude on your behalf. So your choices are clear. Either talk or rely on what the other person thinks of you. Obviously, this is a better choice. We all want to be the agency who wants to control your reputation. And the moment you leave it to the other person, he or she makes assumptions. And needless to say, assumptions are more often than not incorrect. You rarely have any of us with right assumptions. The second thing that communication does to establish credibility is lead to transparency. The moment you are transparent, you ensure that there is no distrust and no insecurity. Notice through multiple ways like that, like the jigsaw puzzle and the Rubik cube, I'm just playing with these terms, and my terms remain the same: credibility, trust, transparency, security. I'm trying to establish to say, get in charge of your communication, because you are in the driver's seat, and then you call the shots and you hold an influence on the other person to decide how do they think of you before they make their conclusion and decide how do they want to think about you. So the next slide. And this, of course, please feel free to click pictures of this, because we may not be able to share this presentation with you, but I'm completely open to all of you capturing this, because this is called the Simon Sinek's Golden Circle. And all that I'm telling you is each individual is impressed not by what you are doing and how you are doing, but they're impressed by why are you doing what you are doing. And for a lot of us who are part of NGOs, and this comes out of my 2 decades of experience, and please don't go by the black hair on my head, they're not turning gray, otherwise I would look as experienced as Sushma does also. As an NGO, we love to believe that why am I doing? Because it's a noble thing to do, but others don't want that. It's the given. How do you distinguish your noble act from the other? If each one of you go out and ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? It's going to get you really troubled, because that why is going to be the basis of your elevator pitch. That why is going to be the DNA and the genesis on which your communication will be established. And that conviction that you make to your own self is what's going to be translated to the other. Majority of the times, we have failed to communicate with ourselves. We've just made assumptions that I know what I'm doing. But have you tried to word it to yourself? That feeling of doing good work, have you tried to put it out in some format and say, how does this goodness look outside of me? That why, That is the why, and that is the heart of strategic communication. I repeat, anybody interested, please feel free to take pictures of that, because this specific framework, it will give you what is your product like, it will give you why should people like and believe in what you're saying, all of those together. For paucity of time, I'm just moving slightly fast, but I'd be happy to take questions towards the end. We move on, Shrishti. And if that circle has gone fine, please understand you are a young volunteer. Your partnership happens as Kalki's partnership in that nice colored picture. If you're a little of the older times, you can still have your partner along, your community and your volunteers working along with you. And it's a classic. Partnerships are forever. And here is your partner who is either a corporate, and as they say, these are two people in this dark cave trying to make meaning of the world. And it's never a better time than the current COVID times, when we all need to stand by and support each other to find our way through this world. That's the world of partnership we want you to establish. And therefore, Shrishti, we move on to it. To get that kind of partnership, understand values need to match. Distances are absolutely irrespective. If there's a common intent, your actions are bound to fall in place. This was all that occurred to me, and all that occurred to me was all that I shared with Sushma. And that's when Sushma told me, Ruchi, fantastic. Let me take you to a location where we saw values match, distances disappear, common intent coming together for some fantastic work. And Sushma takes you to this location. Over to you, Sushma.
Thank you so much, Ruchi. And it's very hard a suit to follow, because in the capsule, you have tried to give all about communication and led to the partnership and why partnership and are important and what it can do. And definitely, I've been following this case or this project quite closely. And that's why I would like to share this case so that you know what Ruchi talked about. We can see that happening here, and especially with parlance of partnerships. So move on. Move on, Srishti. So I'm going to talk about India, and there is a state called Jharkhand, which was carved out of Bihar. And then this picture. What I'm trying to tell you here is that Jharkhand and the Godda. The Godda has an issue. Move on, Srishti, that the few players or few partners before they came together had realized, and they wanted to work on these issues. So issues at hand were poor quality of education. And when I say poor quality of education, Godda, when it's like one of the 24 districts in Jharkhand, or when it was one of the 64 districts of Bihar, it has always remained in last 3-4 in ranking when it comes to the 10th board results. You know, it's one parameter that we will see. Second, high dropout rate, as high as 62% in general, 88% for SC/ST, and whooping 91% for girls at elementary level. So, you can see that how large is an issue that we have on hand. And the poor attendance at school. It was like between 20-25% that before Gyanoday was introduced. Next, please, Srushti. And as all of you know, that Godda is one of the aspirational districts. And this, what I'm going to share with you is the journey from aspirational to inspirational. And here you can see the, the partners coming together because there was a common intent that they wanted to work on. There was a common issue that they wanted to work. So here is the partnership that started with district administration and Niti Aayog representative at Godda, Adani Foundation, and Ecovation as an organization which has, expertise in content development. Next, please, Srushti. So here there were three players: district administration, as I said, Adani Foundation, and Ecovation, and they all had same intent to work on those three major issues. And then more and more stakeholders kept joining and became partners. School teachers, because school teachers needed to buy in, because Gyanoday was, what it was offering is the AI-based learning through smart classes. So teachers were very important stakeholders. School management committee and Gram Panchayat, because when Adani Foundation started Gyanodaya with these two, we realized that almost many, or I would say majority of schools were not ready with the infrastructure. So school management committee through GP came up with funds so that they also helped in building the infrastructure to be ready to have the smart class. We realized that there was no electricity in 47 remote schools. Then how this model of AI-based smart class would work? So then Jharkhand Electricity Board joined and became an important stakeholder and partner, and then students and their families. So let's see the results with this partnership when there was a common intent, and let's see what were the communication outcomes. So there were lots of communication happened. I'm not going to go in the detail because the paucity of the time, but lots of meetings with parents, students, teachers training, outside world. So let's see that what were the internal outcomes of this communication. It created awareness. As many employees, as Ruchi had said earlier, that many, and I think even Mr. Anurag also said the importance of volunteering. So there were employee volunteers involved in this program. They got to know about this project and they created awareness amongst other people and spread awareness in communities too. Attributions. The awareness is attributed to company as a good doer. And for Adani, it's the tagline that they used is growth with goodness. And that was one of the attribution that happened. The trust, awareness, and its association with company builds trust amongst people, students, and also through them in the company amongst employees. And the brand ownership, as I said earlier, is growth with goodness. Now let's see the external outcomes of this communication, not only the project, but the project communication. Each partner in stakeholder communicates to build positive synergy. So there are many partners, and each one, as Ruchi rightly said, that it's like an elevator speech. Each one of them have to say the similar things because they all work together and they believe in the project, but how you put it. So each partner would say the same thing because they constantly met and discussed the project outcomes. During the pandemic period, Gyanodaya was expanded to entire Jharkhand. So again, few more partners joined, Jharkhand Doordarshan and YouTube, so that how Gyanodaya was reaching to, like in the beginning, say 10,000 to 30,000 to 70,000 students. Now during pandemic, it started reaching out to more than 40 lakh students. So again, that's the external outcome of the communication, because with that communication, the state education department knew that how beautifully Gyanodaya is working at Godda. And then positive results attracted outside channel to take note and amplify. And let's see that how that was done. Srushti, we move on.
देश में सरकारी विद्यालय जहां प्राइवेट विद्यालयों से पिछड़ते जा रहे हैं, वहां आज भी इन सरकारी विद्यालयों में पढ़ रहे विद्यार्थियों की संख्या कम नहीं हो रही है। इन सरकारी विद्यालयों से इन्हें आज भी उतना ही उम्मीद है और इसी उम्मीद को सफल बनाने के लिए गोड्डा डिस्ट्रिक्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ने ज्ञानोदय प्रोजेक्ट की शुरुआत करी है, जहां आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस जैसे आधुनिक तकनीक का इस्तेमाल कर नए रंग में डिजिटल क्लासरूम लगाए जा रहे हैं। और इसका सर्वप्रथम परिणाम यह हुआ है कि विद्यार्थियों की उपस्थिति स्कूल में 200% से भी अधिक बढ़ी है। गोड्डा डिस्ट्रिक्ट के 137 स्कूलों में महज 196 शिक्षक उपलब्ध थे और इसी संसाधनों में एक इनोवेटिव मॉडल का प्रयोग कर बच्चों को गुणवत्तापूर्ण शिक्षा उपलब्ध कराई जा रही है। इस इनोवेटिव मॉडल में शिक्षकों को आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस से इनेबल्ड डिजिटल क्लासरूम पर ट्रेन किया जाता है, जहां शिक्षक टीवी के माध्यम से सब्जेक्ट को पढ़ाते हैं। इसी विषय पर विद्यार्थियों का टेस्ट लिया जाता है और उनके द्वारा दिए गए जवाबों से उनका लर्निंग कर्व बनता है। एआई बेस्ड फीडबैक इन बच्चों को दिया जाता है, जिससे वो विषय में खुद को मजबूत बनाते हैं। जिन टॉपिक में स्टूडेंट को समझने में परेशानी हो रही होती है, वहां वर्चुअल रियलिटी टेक्नोलॉजी का प्रयोग कर उन्हें वो दिखाया जाता है। ये तकनीक भारतीय शिक्षा व्यवस्था में पहली बार गोड्डा में उपयोग में लाया गया है, जो अब पूरे भारत में फैल रहा है। इस मॉडल को स्कूलों में लगाने से अटेंडेंस में बहुत अधिक सुधार हुआ है और जहां पहले ये 20% से भी कम था, आज 50% से अधिक जा रहा है। इस मॉडल से लर्निंग आउटकम में भी बहुत अच्छा ग्रोथ हुआ है और बेसलाइन टेस्ट के 27% मार्क्स से विद्यार्थी वीकली टेस्ट में 72% एवरेज मार्क्स ला रहे हैं। स्कूल के करिकुलम से आगे बढ़ते हुए सेलेक्टेड बच्चों को कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम्स की तैयारी कराई जा रही है, जहां आईआईटी के ग्रेजुएट्स की मदद से जेईई और नीट की परीक्षा की तैयारी शुरू हो गई है। साथ ही बच्चों का रुझान एनडीए, फैशन टेक्नोलॉजी, क्लैट और दूसरे कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम में बढ़ाने के लिए उन्हें प्रोफेशनल डेवलपमेंट के वीडियोस दिखाकर उनकी तैयारी भी सुनिश्चित की जा रही है। ज्ञानोदय शिक्षा के प्रकाश को हर घर तक पहुंचाने के लिए शुरू किया हुआ प्रोग्राम है, जो अब गोड्डा डिस्ट्रिक्ट से आगे बढ़कर झारखंड के दूसरे डिस्ट्रिक्ट तक पहुंच रहा है। और हर जगह गुणवत्तापूर्ण शिक्षा से विद्यार्थियों को एक उज्जवल भविष्य की तरफ आगे बढ़ा रहा है।
So what I was trying to tell is the project outcome and how it was communicated by one of the partner, and how, if you because we don't have much time, but I would urge you to just type Gyanodaya, and on YouTube you will see number of videos, and that's just one communication channel that everyone starts appreciating, because they feel that they are part of this project, owner of the project. And that's the, how partnerships create a great impact and amplifies impact. It started with few schools in Godda, covered entire Godda district. And then during the pandemic, it covered the entire Jharkhand state. And that's because it was communicated to right people, communicated to community, and that is how, without spending much more time, much more efforts, it could amplify. So the impact was amplified, and it becomes sustainable also. And it worked because the entire project was based, and it can show the results, because Ruchi talked about the importance of data too. Data, the baseline data was maintained, and that brings your transparency, the trust, and it helps in amplifying your impact, and also makes the partnership stronger. So external outcome, you have rightly looked at through video, that quality of education, when Godda was one of the last one, maybe the 20th out of 24 district, today it's at 11th place. Godda became the first in Santhal Pargana as far as 8th board is concerned. Attendance in school has gone up, as you heard in the video, from 20% to 50 and 60%. And these are the numbers from 2019. In 2020, it has crossed almost 74-75%. Dropout rate has been reduced because as it was so low, it's been changing. So outcome of the project, once you communicate, then more and stronger partnerships with stakeholder is developed and create solidarity in partnership. So with this, I would end and give you back Ruchi, and would be happy to take any question.
Yep, Sushma. So I did see a couple of questions which I parked for the Q&A, and I thought that once we get in here, let's have it live. So here are some. It says, what were the other channels of communication to achieve the outcome mentioned? But before that, and Pankaj, we will be handling that question. There is Manoj who asks a more project-oriented question, and he's asking, which companies are the partnering ones to implement the AI-based project, and maybe implement such a project in Odisha? Rest of them, of course, thank you so much for the compliments that you dish out. It's a lot of attempt of Adani and the team there. But that's one project, that's one question, Sushma, which asks about the partners for AI. And then we'll come to Pankaj's question about the channels of communication. For all others, please feel free to keep punching your questions. We'd be happy to answer.
Okay, so as I said, but I will just expand it a little bit more. It was the district administration, because without their commitment and will, this was not possible. Ecovation is the name of the organization which has expertise in AI-based content development. So Ecovation was roped in, uh, and I think they would be willing to go to other places also because they have a large team, and they are still working on this project. I think those were the main questions as far as project was concerned.
Yes, Sushma. And the other one, of course, is about the channels of communication
Yes.
used to connect with stakeholders.
Okay. So channel of communication, I would say that for, the outside world and for students, their parents, teachers to be happy, even the small videos of what they were doing were created either by themselves or by either equation while doing it. It was done by district administration. Then there were many videos or many reports by the other media partners. So they were not partners, but they were just reporting that what was happening. So lots of stories in newspaper, lots of meetings with parents, because we wanted them to have buy-in. And so when we have a meeting or when foundation team will have meeting at grassroots level, they also use the exhibition and also the demonstration, so that the parents would know, the gram panchayat leaders or the wise men of the village would know that how it is being done. And when with this, there is lots of content on mobile also, because there is a component which is called Mera Mobile Mera Vidyalay, and parents or father might have to share that. So in the evening when father comes home, child or girl or boy would take that and study. But that having that application on the mobile, that is one way of communicating with parents, that how useful and important it is to use this, and for the betterment of their kids' education. So lots of the print media, the electronic media, Instagram post, Facebook post, and once kids like the higher 11th, 12th grade kids, when they would also share with their counterparts in other districts. I might have, missed few channels, but there are lots of channels that were used.
So thanks so much for Sushma. Let me kind of submit it on behalf of Sushma to use a few technical terms for all that I have been doing. So there is something which is called the integrated communication plan. And I'm not talking of the integrated marketing communication, but there is an integrated communication plan. And if you reach out to any communication agency, which could also be people like us, who do a whole lot of communication projects and assignments. So as a part of CDMC, we handle a lot of communication projects and assignments, all of which just help to work along with whoever approaches us to help them build effective communication plans. So that's one of the things that probably Sushma was saying, and this should help me answer Pankaj's question before I go to Priya's question. So Pankaj says, can you suggest any platforms to build our capacities for effective communication? Because most of the grassroots level NGOs can't go beyond reports and case studies. We don't have expertise in digital communication. Pankaj, please reach out to us. We are anyways planning to do a whole lot of advanced classes with CSR box. Please keep looking at them very soon, and hopefully in about 4 to 5 weeks time. And I'm talking to the entire group here. Anybody interested in advanced communication hands-on workshop, we will be conducting that very soon with CSR Box along with Micah. Along with that, we of course do take up such consulting assignments as a part of our CDMC product offering. So Pankaj, did I answer your question? I hope I did. I'm responding to Priya's question, and Priya's question is, how can we actually understand and read what's going on in the other person and hence influence them? How can we actually predict the mind of the others when it comes to communicating to large and diverse target audience? So Priya, my direct response to you is that when it's a small group, there are two elementary skills that you need. And we are willing to work with you and your team to help you prepare that. You need very high empathy and very strong sense of observation. If you have these two skills, you will be able to understand and gather cues through a systematic, scientific manner. When you put these cues together, you will be able to predict what's in the mind of the other person in close setting. In large setting and in the current times when digital media has very tangible footprints, and these are data footprints, you gather them, you put them together, you analyze them, and you come out with an output or a result. You then build an appropriate story, and this is also connecting to Pankaj's question. You build an appropriate story, and this story is your response to what's happening in the mind of the other person. So no matter how large it is, understand that the internet knows it all and the Google is watching you all the time. In the current times, it's absolutely impossible to stay untouched by for any of us from Google. That's the data. Apart from that, there are tons of qualitative and quantitative methods through which we capture data which reads the minds of the other person. So you can do a lot of data insight, capturing of thought insight, and there are standard, regularized scientific ways through which we do that. So that was my response to Priya's question. What is the best way to reach out to any potential partner? That's one question. When we follow the theory of change for our organization, there's a process we follow to break it down per activity. How can we do the same for communication strategy for our organization? Deepta, let me tell you, it's a long 8-hour session that I can take with you to explain that to you. I just have 3 minutes. Feel free to reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to work along with you. We look forward to communication workshops. What are the components needed to be included while designing a communication strategy for a not-for-profit organization? So for a not-for-profit organization or for a profit organization, personally, there is no difference in creating any communication strategy. The difference is in your vision, and the differences in your approach to your work. A not-for-profit does not consume profit. It's not that it does not make profits. And when I'm saying profit, I mean value. A not-for-profit probably makes more value than a for-profit organization. And so a communication strategy generally follows the same format, but it applied to a different context. Florina is saying how to communicate with cancer patients. I work as a counselor in Sanjeevani Life Beyond Cancer NGO, and our communication is with underprivileged cancer patients. So we have, again, a whole lot of workshops that we design, and that's exactly how we reach out to them. We understand, so there are a set of steps. You do an analysis of the situation, which is your base level. On the base level, you gather data. Once you have your data with yourself, you analyze them, you come out with the results, post which a strategy is made. Very honestly, I do not have these magic pudiyas which I can open and say, take this morning and evening, next day you have your strategy ready. Just not possible. These are more immersive activities.
Yes.
Our purpose of this workshop is just the following two. Through this masterclass, we wanted to reach out to you to give you this conviction that is it doable? The answer has to be yes. Through Sushma, we were able to present to you a live, actual yes conviction and an evidence, a proof that it can be done. If you want to reach out to us and understand how do we do that, my response will be, please come out. These are more extensive workshops required, off the cuff, 2-minute responses. It doesn't happen. So there aren't quick fixes. We've got to immerse with you into your organization, understand your problem, and we are more than willing to and happy to do that, primarily because our values and your values match, and that's about the only conviction basis which I'm saying reach out. We'd be happy to work along. 1:30, our time's up. We're done, Sushma. Thank you so much. Any further questions, please feel free to reach out. The ever beaming Pooja, the session is all yours.
Thank you once again.
Thank you, Professor Ruchi and Ms. Sushma, for your superb facilitation of this masterclass. It was truly a spectacular session.